This podcast is brought to you by One Chick Cowgirl Productions, keeping the Wild West alive. Welcome to She Brands the Land, where land meets legacy. I'm Charlie Henderson, your host, and today we decided to wrap up our first series of the podcast. And we started off with Ash, who is my editor, chief in charge of this podcast. And then we met last week and we were like, I want to finish off this series and why don't you come back on with me? Because we had so much fun in the beginning and we continue to have so much fun. This is just such an incredible creative um, process for me. And I've just been absolutely digging this whole thing. I love it. I love it. I love it. And my experiences here. So hi, Ash. Nice to see you
Hi.
again.
Yeah, I was so excited when you asked me. I was like really honored actually. We were at the coffee shop and you're like, "Do you want to do the ender?" I was like, "Oh, okay. Yes." I will reiterate that I have like the least to do with branding or landing or like my only no ranches in my actually I did drive to Steamboat yesterday and I passed a lot of ranches. But that is the extent of my in with this show besides the editing and the producing of it. But I will say, as someone who doesn't have all of those things in my back pocket and my history, I enjoyed every single episode that one of the best parts about being an editor is you just get exposed to things because you literally have to listen to every word to make sure there's not something that you need to cut out or finesse, or like a transition. And so I had to be very, very present just based on my job. And I found every single conversation you had to be just splendid, not only from like their personalities and their stories, but also just what they were able to offer in terms of information about this valley. I learned more about my valley, and you know, probably other valleys just with different characters in the process. So even as someone who is not like in that world, I can say this is a show I would recommend, especially to all locals around.
Well, thanks. I mean, it has been such a incredible pleasure to be interviewing everybody that I have, and I still have such a huge list. Quickly, disclaimer, anybody who is seeing this is not a tattoo on my arm. This is called the Aspen Dash. It is, I was at a conference in Austin. Of course, flight was delayed. And in Denver, big planes come in one side, small planes go out the other, and typically on opposite ends of the terminal. And I had hand luggage, and I literally almost ripped my arm off trying to dash from one end of the terminal to the other. So
I was
no,
trying to
this is
figure out what you were
not.
saying about the Aspen Dash. I was like, it
Yeah,
looks like KT tape, but
it
that's
is.
what you mean. It is
Yeah.
it is. So for those of you who are not looking at the screen and you're just listening, she has a very interesting situation of tape on her arm. And yeah, now I do get it. Actually, back in Tennessee, like, I used to carry really I mean, I still do, but I'm more mindful of it, but I used to carry very heavy purses, just with, like, books and, my laptop in it and all that stuff, and I'd lean back and put it in the back seat, and I,
Oh,
like, basically separated my shoulder doing it. It was a really cool thing to have to tell a chiropractor. But
speaking of, so I was with
Aspen Dash is better.
yeah. Well, it was hysterical because I see Dr. Jason Slaver, and he was, we were laughing yesterday, and of course he was telling me the pattern that I need to, put the KT tape on. But yeah, it's called the luggage arm or something like that. But
Yeah.
I mean, it speaks to travel to Aspen is never easy. If you make it in one shot, you're lucky. Um, and it also speaks to this whole debate going on right now about the airport and the closure and whatever. And there's a lot of sentiment, negative and positive. I mean, bigger runway, FDA funding, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But, it's allowing billionaire big planes in. And do we need that? And yeah, I mean, it is a conversation because Aspen is such a special place and it's not easy to get to. And maybe that's why it is so special. So when you do get here in one shot, you're like, yay.
Yeah.
But inevitably, most of us have been, even if we're on a plane, getting to the runway, about to land, sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes you're coming in for landing and then you're taking right off again because of the wind. And then you are either detoured back to Denver or Junction or wherever. So that's the beauty of where we live. It's hard to get to. And, it's that's a whole other conversation. So also, I'm wearing headphones today because I am undertaking a major primary bathroom renovation, which, I mean, come
That's
on.
great. But yeah, the sounds are fun, but I can't hear anything, just FYI.
Well, it feels like I've had root canal for 3 days. Just like the walls are shaking and everything,
Oh.
but it's shaping up really nicely. And it's really cool when you have a great team coming in, working, full on. These guys came and did our full living room, kitchen renovation when I bought the house. And we didn't move in right away, but we kind of renovated it and they work day and night. And so this is such an incredible team. So grateful. So for those of you seeing me today, I've got headphones on because I can just literally hear that. And then my dog is barking because of the knocking on the wall. So it's, go with the punches here.
Yeah.
All right, Ash. I
Yes,
want to.
sorry, and if you see me, my eyes are watering because I just choked on saliva. Yep.
All right. So, leading up to this podcast this morning, I listened to yours, the
Oh,
latest one. And for the audiences, just a reminder that Ashlyne has a beautiful podcast. It's called Confessions of a Slow Cooker, and it's all about her IVF journey. And this particular episode it made me cry.
oh,
I mean, wow. So this particular episode, she is hosting it with her husband, Marcus Blue, Dr. Marcus Blue, and they talk about their journey from his side as well. And I've known Marcus for many, many years. And wow, did that blow the doors off because he was so vulnerable.
yes, he
Wow.
was. He
You are a
was.
lucky girl.
I've gotten that feedback. I mean, like I knew that anyway. And being someone who's divorced, it hits differently when you hear that from people because you know that your first marriage failed. And so that has been the prevailing feedback. Wow, what a person. And I I knew that, but I did not know that he would be so vulnerable on the podcast. We did one take. We actually thought we lost the tape like through halfway through because it wasn't at the very end. You know this because I've trained you on this Riverside platform. And after you're done recording, you have to ask your guests to wait until it says uploaded until you close the laptop or shut down the computer. So I did that with Marcus, and he has great internet at his office. Great internet. There is no issue, and there was no issue that day, but for whatever reason, there was with the platform. It wasn't his internet, it wasn't mine. And we thought, oh no, we only got like 15 minutes, and there was so much in there, and we didn't plan the episode because we both know the story through and through, and I wanted it to be something that would be raw, honest, and not pre-curated, if you will. And so we came back that afternoon after a bunch of like back and forth. Has it done it yet? No. Okay, well, we're still wearing the same clothes, same day, same time of day ish. I rushed back over here to the studio. He was in between patients, and we tried to like think. We like started taping again. We were like, what were we saying? How did we say? What have we already said? And we got done, and we were just like, that was shitty. Because you can't recreate magic.
Yeah.
And especially when it's that vulnerable. And it's such an important episode because and not to correct you, but the whole show is not just about my IVF journey. It's everybody's fertility journey, whether that is via IVF, surrogacy. I have someone coming on soon to talk about a part of her journey, which was cancer. And so, and my sister didn't have any issues getting pregnant. She had too many pregnancies. She was trying not to get pregnant so soon after the first one. So it's not just about IVF. It just happened to be what I had to go through. And, um, and so I thought something that you just don't see a lot of in the discourse online and social media. Some people are like super big posters and they post about everything, but usually that's not the dudes, the
Yeah.
partners in the IVF stuff. So even if you have a woman who's saying, these are the shots I took and this is all the things I did, the guys are usually pretty silent. And there's a lot going on under the hood. I knew that because I witnessed it, but I was so thankful that he was willing to come on and talk about it because and I shared a bunch of the clips with other guys in my life, like my brother-in-law back in Nashville, and was like, "Hey, which ones of these like resonate with you?" Because I'm used to sending them to women who were
Yeah.
like, "Oh my gosh, he's so cute," but Jordan, my brother-in-law, he was like, the ones that actually got him are the ones that were saying, "Get checked, go do this," because something that he was asked to do. And so I thought, this is something I feel like a lot I would have shared all of these things with Marcus had I had somebody doing this before me. And that is the point. We want to like normalize talking about hard things in public, not to like expose them to people, but to show that you're just not the only one dealing with it. It was a good episode. It's probably one of my favorites,
I,
partially because it's my
yeah.
husband.
Well, I mean, he was so honest. And what sort of came out of that was you never really know what's happening in somebody's life, right?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
I remember that's when you and I first met, and you were getting your eggs retrieved and all that kind of stuff, and I didn't know what you were going through at all. I didn't know what he was going through. And, he's a doctor. And as he explains, he had to put on a face, to his clients and doing surgery. And, the day that, that news came through, and um, it just made me really know him better.
Mm,
And coming back to you don't know what everybody's going through. I mean, in the episode that I recorded with Connor Coleman, at the
mm.
end, we talk about, you know, mental health for men in this valley. We've lost some really amazing cowboys to just suicide or, mostly suicide. Um, but
Yeah.
men have to hold it together, and especially like cowboys don't cry type
Right.
thing. And then this latest episode with Geraldine Islanic as well, I'm like, you know, we are women, we're so strong. I mean, I think in this valley, women are so strong because,
You have to
it's
be.
a very, you have to be, but we're very outdoors focused, right? But then when you think about cowgirls, you're badass, you're gritty, you're picking up bales of hay, you're vaccinating cattle, that kind of stuff. And my question to her was, how do you balance that, the femininity with the masculinity? Because I am, I'm a number one culprit is like I put those cowboy jeans on and the buckle, and then all of a sudden I'm in masculine mode and I'm, roping and jabbing needles into. We were doing this at branding day recently, when we were vaccinating the little calves, and it's just you get like so masculine in your head. But how do we balance that femininity, that
Right.
vulnerability? That to me it was an interesting kind of, because she totally encompasses that. She can do that, and you meet her, and she's just like this beautiful feminine woman, but she's badass at the same time. And I wrote a poem about her because that's exactly how I felt when I met her. Like she encompasses it both. Um,
Yeah.
so coming back to um, the experience with the the pod this
Yeah.
this last while. I just got to really know people so much better. I mean, I thought I knew them, just like, I thought
Yeah.
I knew you, you thought you knew
Yeah.
me. But just some really cool nuggets. I mean, um, my interview with Andrea Wendell, she's an extraordinary sculptor and just understanding her process, but she's lived in this valley for such a long time. And, she lived that Aspen life and then
Mm-hmm.
she kind of decided to go down valley and, um, and migrate down there.
Right. Well, and and when I think having a podcast in general, it's a lot of work. You've come to know that. It's a lot of work because it especially if you have guests and it's not like a monologue, you have a lot of scheduling. You have to find time with someone else during their regular day. It's not like you have to look semi good to have some good lighting and all those things. So it's not just it's not something you can do via AI, if you will. You
Yeah.
have to put in the work. You have to do some research. You have to do the scheduling. And then you have to get the episode ready and put it out. But in that process, and I'm learning this too in real time as a podcaster, not just an editor, because as an editor, I don't have to do all that front work. I do the back end. And so as a someone who is hosting a show as well, I feel like it's a good microcosm for life. You have to do a lot more work, but what you get on the back end
Mm.
is so interesting. And so having a podcast, if I can say anything that I've gotten out of it, is that my intentionality with people, my conversations now that I'm doing this more on a regular basis, I'm learning so much about them during the process of taping. But I'm trying to take that and apply it to my regular life and ask more questions in regular conversations at the coffee shop. Also, share more about myself in those regular conversations. I think I shared more with you about my life in the past time we were there together, and it's just like a muscle. It's not something that I'm like, yes, I'm being intentional about it, but the intentionality has come from doing it so many times on this platform. And I found that my relationships with people are so much more rich and they are so much more even our text conversations have more depth to them. And
Yeah.
so if there's anything that I feel like besides the actual stories that you've gained on this first season, I hope there's another season and I hope people will reach out to you and say, hey, I want to tell my story. Because I feel like in this valley, you see what people do for work, and isn't that such a normal thing to ask people? What do you do? And it's not malignant, it's benign. It also can, though, it can bring somebody into a very light and narrow
Silo.
version of themselves because they can answer that question without having to go too deep, right?
Hmm.
But what you've learned, listener and Ashlyn and Charlie, I guess, but what you learn through asking more questions is what kind of piece of you did you get to this point? And not everybody's work and job is like a culmination of their life's intentional work,
Hmm.
but their lives were a part of it to get there. And it tells so much more of a story and it's so much more interesting. And just listening again, as your editor, as your producer, to all these people, how they got there, that is the magic. Why Andrea started where she started, why you started where you started, how you got here in the first place, what led you to X, Y, and then Z, and then now here. That is what makes the whole thing just. Why do we watch movies? Why do we read books? Why do we watch TV shows? Because of the story. And I am so thankful you have been able to pull stories out of places that they existed, but now someone can be listening to that story on the way to work or on a flight or while they're running through the airport getting Aspen Dash arm. And then, or watching it on YouTube,
Yeah.
because they decided they just wanted to see the people in their valley a little bit. So thank you for putting that on tape, literally on tape.
Yeah. It's funny. I opened Facebook this morning and
Hmm.
you know how it brings up memories and
Yes.
the picture was me in it was me in the car in the dark behind a horse trailer. And that was leaving Princeton, New Jersey, 12
Wow.
years ago, and loading my horse Chagall up and driving across the country behind this horse trailer um, for miles and miles, just monotonous miles to get here to Aspen. Um,
Wow.
I by the way, Chagall, for listeners, he is a hunter jumper, and I donated him to the Aspen equestrian team, and he's been the
Sweet.
best asset they've had. He's such a cool guy, and I was speaking to, well, I texted with Susan Penland recently, who's a dear friend. I've known her for years, and I might be taking a lesson or two on him, which
Nice.
is really cool. But coming back to what you were saying, I mean, yeah, the podcast is a lot of work because I really do a deep dive. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not just learning about the person that I'm interviewing, but I get to go to their ranches and get, tours. And I mean, I spent some time on the Islamic ranch last week, and then on my way out, I dashed to Skyline to visit with Martha and Dara there. But yeah, I'm getting to see their lives, and it is really interesting to get to know them better, like knowing where they live, what they're waking up to, but
Right.
also, I'm so curious about their journeys and the storytelling aspect of that. And I think, it's such a rich value. It really attracts unique people. Um,
Mhm.
not the glitz and glamour of Aspen, but the valley itself. And what was really fun when you and I met at a coffee shop last week, I mean, we sat down and it was like Aspen used to be. Like we knew
Oh,
50,
hi. Oh, hi. Oh, hi. Yeah.
and then Rachel
Yeah.
came and sat down with us. And
Yeah.
um, for the audience, Rachel Natus owns Aspen Luxury Concierge. And actually, she bought it from me. So I
Right.
found
And I worked for her,
such a
actually.
small world. So I founded that business, it was, I'd say 10 years ago. Um, Slight detour story about me. Uh, I ended up being in an awful divorce and really just had to put one foot in front of another. And I had um, met some people before I moved here. I was working in New York City, and after the divorce, I had to find a job, and I met with a few people, and they basically said, well, the job that you had in New York doesn't exist here. And if it did, um, you know, people in that role are not giving it up because, they're very coveted jobs. And
Mhm.
so the advice to me was start your own business if you want that role. And so that's what I did. And I had come from a wellness background in New York City. I worked for a wellness real estate company called Delos. They've done amazing things since then. But basically, it was real estate and then adding a whole wellness component. So looking at optimizing your health within the built environment. So
Mm.
not just green building materials, but like vitamin C showers and bamboo flooring and
Hmm.
air. And so it dealt with like the five senses. Um,
Yeah.
so it was pretty epic. And then, when I had to start my own business, I was like, okay, let me do a wellness concierge service here. And that was at the time that the Aspen Club was still up and running. And
Oh.
I was like, gee, I've got to take them on. But,
Yeah.
small
Yeah.
steps. And then I got a call one day from a friend named Dana Horton. Oh, yeah, it was Dana Horton. And she was like, you have a concierge business. Would you like to do you do restaurant reservations and stuff like that? And I was like, not really. Um,
Yeah.
but I
But I
was
can. Yeah.
starving for work. So I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, maybe yes. So she's like, well, hey, would you like to come and interview with us? And I happened to interview with her. She was the assistant to Stephen Shane at the time,
Oh,
Compass. And so I went and interviewed with the two of them. And Stephen says to me, do you know anything about fashion? And I was like, yeah, I went to fashion school, designed my own line, all that kind of
yeah.
stuff in the old days. And he said, "Well, I have a client for you," and it turned out to be Tommy Hilfiger.
Oh.
And then 4 weeks later,
Who? I'm just kidding, just kidding.
amazing man, amazing family.
Oh,
It was
that's great.
incredible. And then 4
Okay.
weeks later, he says, "I have another client for you," and that was Heidi Klum. And
Wow.
and
Jeez.
then, I mean, and then it just exploded. It was, the Kardashians and like, all those types of people. So that was in the
Yeah,
heyday. But coming back, so I started the company and I grew quite significantly, and I got to really meet some incredible people. And like I said, with Tommy Hilfiger, he was probably my best client. They were
yeah.
just they were just such incredible, warm, you know, honest people. Go I would go in the morning, check in with them, they would hug me, and then
Oh,
anything you
neat.
wanted, and, the children were amazing. So, he was undoubtedly my favorite client. But then, fast forward, that was a tough job. I my children, like, I didn't really have Christmas and New Year with them because that was on my
Yeah,
busiest time.
right.
And after a couple of years, I was like, life's too short, and Rachel stepped up and she was like, "Okay, I want to buy the business." And so fast forward, then you were working with her, and now Morgan's working with her. It's so
Yeah.
cool,
That's
all
so
these.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you're as you're talking, it is bringing everything to, because 'cause I'm like I've already mentioned, I had a divorce, and it's so interesting, and I feel like this valley is a perfect or imperfect place to be coming after a divorce or being here during a divorce or anything that is life altering, life obliterating,
Mhm.
because you do have to get creative. It does not this place does not offer. Like, when
Exactly.
I came here, I didn't come here post-divorce, I came here because I met Marcus, my ultimately my only husband, as I would like to say, but, um, I didn't come here looking for a fresh start necessarily, but when I came here, I had to decide to leave Nashville, where there was a lot more opportunity for someone in my background. I had been building my, real estate, uh, clientele in the music industry, which is my background. And so even if I had decided not to be in real estate anymore, I still had the music industry, which I had a background in. And so when I moved here, it was like, you don't know anybody, you don't know where you are, and this is a small valley, and there are tons of people competing for the same exact thing. They're
Mhm.
not making any more land, and there's no industry other than like really an industry other than like ranching and that type of thing, but also resorts and that kind of thing. And so
Yeah.
I felt like, held back by lack of opportunity in what I was naturally good at. And it's amazing what you end up doing and what you do along the way. Um, and I think I'm better for it. And I feel like you are too. And that's kind of like when you move to a small town or you move to some place that is just smaller or
Mhm.
just different, you have to get creative. And in that creativity, you really things are born. Real things are born. And this podcast for me for you, I feel like is one of those next steps. I know my podcast business and my podcast itself is me finally turning inward and saying, what do you want to do? Who are you really? And what kind of life do you want to lead? And it wasn't like the first thing I did. It wasn't the second thing I did. It wasn't the third or fourth. It is whatever number it is. I actually don't know, but it's the best thing. And I feel like some of the confines of a small valley, um, yeah, I'm thankful for it.
Yeah. I mean, I think most of us will joke we have like 3 jobs.
Yeah,
And part of that is the journey that we're on because, you do what you have obviously to make ends meet, but it's also, I think, an exploration of who you are. I mean, I've done multiple things over the years. I was the assistant publisher of Peak Magazine with Modern Luxury.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I was the general manager of the French Alpine Bistro
Oh,
yeah, we did 42 events during COVID.
whoa.
That beautiful little chalet on the street, ah, man, I
That
organized
place was cool.
that was amazing. Everybody talks about how incredible that little chalet was, and I did the most incredible events in that,
That's
42
so
in a
wonderful.
year. Yeah. Um, and then, yeah, so, and that was obviously during COVID. And
And
then,
COVID's a good another example.
yeah,
People got creative during an unprecedented time, and we can look back at COVID, especially in a mountain town. That was trippy
huge.
to live in a place that because I was working at Aspen Luxury Concierge at that time with Rachel because I had stopped working where I was before, for other reasons, but it just so happened Rachel I was just gonna be writing for her. That's what I was gonna start doing, and then COVID hit. And then it was like, "Hey, can you help me out with everything else?"
Yeah.
Because now we have an influx. Our town is like completely dead in one way, but it's like an influx in other ways because everyone wants to flee their towns. And in that process, I became whatever was necessary, whatever she needed, because it's whatever the clients needed. And I found I was so proud of our valley during that time, rising to the occasion without like we can look back on it and say, yeah, it stopped at this time, things came back to normal around that time, but at the time we didn't know.
Yeah.
We had no idea. We were just pivoting and pivoting and pivoting. And again, that's just like a microcosm of life, but it's I feel like it is like you said, you have a lot of people have multiple jobs here or multiple hats they wear.
Hmm.
Um and it's not a sign of it's not a negative thing. I feel like it's something that's very a common, but also celebrated. Like someone's not like, "Oh, poor thing." It's like, no, this she does like four things and she's making it happen. This is not a cheap place to live. You have to do what you have to do. But that also doesn't it's not a poor me situation in that we want to live here, we got to figure it out.
COVID was an extraordinary time, I think, for all of us. I remember being in performance ski the day that like
Mm.
all hell broke loose at the Little Nell and everything shut down. And then, wow, the world changed for everyone. But we were so lucky when you think
Yeah.
about it. People were stuck in apartments in New York City, and we
Yeah.
had the great outdoors. I mean, we were skinning, we were hiking, we were
Not me.
outside.
Not me, because I had a broken foot.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
I was cleared. I had broken it on Ajax. I caught an edge. It was so fluky. We
Mm.
went up for on Christmas Day just to go to Bonnie's and come down. And that was it. Like just go down to Bonnie's, eat, and then literally come down for the rest of the day and hang out. And it was, and I caught an edge under Jen's Ridge, and it wasn't even cool. Um, yeah, at all, and so that was Christmas. By the time we got to the day that I was actually cleared to get on the elliptical and go back to, like, the gym and just move a little bit, that was the day everything shut down and went
Mm.
into quarantine. So I was like, "What?" And it's not like I'm gonna go hike in a boot, like, I can't. So I was a little, sad. I was a sad clown, but, everyone else, they
Just,
seemed like they had a racket of a
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah. That was it. I wanted to just get back to something happened like last week, which I thought was super cool. So, um, this is the world I'm in, right? Uh, Apple was getting new shoes on. We're at the ranch. There's a couple of us have our horses, and we're all talking. And Josh Akins is my farrier, and he's my friend too. But he's going to be on the show at some point. But
Yay.
anyhow, we're kind of all talking about crazy price of dental work in this valley. Anyhow, long story short, what happened that morning was we had decided to go to the Carbondale Rodeo that night, and it was a last minute decision. And I typically don't get to go to the Carbondale Rodeo because I am on the board of the Snowmass Western Heritage Association, and I run the front of the house for the Snowmass Rodeo, which is on a Wednesday night,
Mm,
and it goes late, and it's a lot of
yeah.
work. So the next day, I'm typically exhausted, and it's also the Snowmass concerts, the
Yeah, 2
music
nights in a
concerts.
row, that's a lot.
Yeah, so I don't typically go to Carbondale Rodeo, and it started earlier this year. So I'm like, Mark, let's go. All right. So we decide that morning. And as usual, I open up my Facebook app, and lo and behold, there's a post from my old reining trainer, Dave
Huh.
Worley. And he was like, anybody want to buy a parking spot at the rodeo? And those are so hard to get.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
coveted.
I mean, I don't know how he got it, but he ended up getting 3.
Ooh.
And so I jump on it right away and I'm like, Dave, can I buy it from you? And he's like, sure, it's yours. And I hadn't seen Dave for years, maybe
Mm.
10 years, because that's kind of when I was training up at Raining with my whole team up at Skyline in Carbondale. So I was like, great. And I'll see you there. And so uh, back to, a couple hours later, Josh is showing Apple. And somehow or another, we're talking about the Carbondale Rodeo. And my friend Lisa's there. And I'm like, guess what? We got a spot. And so all of a sudden, there's this whole conversation about we got this spot where I'm going to pick him up. And then Josh turns around to me and he's like, did you get Dave Worley's spot? And I was like, hell yeah.
Yep, I did.
And he was like, I texted him like 30 seconds after you. And he told me it was taken. And he was like, so I'll tell you what, would you like me to bring up my flatbed trailer? So
Oh.
it went from me jumping on Facebook, getting the spot from Dave, to all of a sudden, Josh is driving his flatbed trailer to the Carbonell, securing the spot before even the rodeo starts. And then I go there and it was like a reunion of note. So many people I
Oh,
knew. It was so cool. And also, the third spot was bought by Martha and Dar at Skyline. And I haven't seen them for ages. I stopped by after visiting Geraldine and Steineck and they weren't home. So I missed them. But I texted with Dar and I was like, are you going tonight? And she's like, yeah. So I got to see her and Martha and Veronica as well. Now, Veronica owns Midland Clothing in
okay.
Willits,
Yeah.
and she and I reigned together years ago, and I haven't seen her for years and years. But it was so cool to see everybody, and those were my people, you know,
Yeah.
those people. Oh my gosh, those women in that team, they they held me during the time through my
Mm.
divorce. They literally held me together. And, those are bonds that you cannot
Oh, yeah.
recreate. And so Dave was there, Martha and Dar were there, and it was just, it's just like so great. That's how much I love this valley so much is those people really held me together. Um,
Right. Well, and also what a testament to in person, but also understanding that like there's a place for technology because it had you not opened Facebook that morning, you wouldn't have seen that opportunity. You wouldn't have jumped on it, and then you were out in the wild, with the peoples, and oh, here this happened, this happened. Oh, I saw that too, and it's just like what that the confluence of your schedule being available at that moment and you looking at something, you taking advantage of it, you going to do it, you talking about it, not just like, because you could easily just not mention anything. But it kind of just goes back to like being more
Sure.
intentional with all the things you're doing and what it can lead to and what experiences or reunions in your case it can lead to. It's just wonderful. And yeah, remembering some hard times with the best people that's what I don't have here because nobody here knows that part of me, which is probably good. But when I do go back to Nashville, those are the people I do see. Those are the people who held me. They were my glue, my Velcro, whatever. And so I'm happy that you have them here, and hopefully you'll have more of those days. Not necessarily at the rodeo if you're at Snowmass, but in general, maybe you can have a little reunion outside of it.
Well, it just speaks to the quality of relationships in this valley when you think about
Yeah.
how that all went down. And yeah, at that beautiful big trailer, people came from all over. I saw people that I just met the weekend before when we were uh, branding the calves, and I just met
Hmm.
them. And that was another really cool situation because, it was the years before it was during the week, but Parker decided to have it on Sunday. And there were 5 different families that came to help, which was amazing. And a lot of, they all volunteer. I mean, nobody's there to be paid for it or whatever. We all just, you know, we showed up and little kids were there watching and Parker's boys were on their horses roping. It was such a beautiful testament to that's what we do in this valley. We help each other. So between that and then, how that whole Carbondale rodeo situation went down was great. And then
Oh, that's so great.
I want to talk a little bit about that because
Sure.
rodeo is, I've learned so much being on this board, um, because it is such an incredible board. It's such a well functioning board, to say the least. Most
Mhm.
boards are not very functional. You usually have one or two people that are trying.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
but in general, we have such how a diverse group of people, and we all have different talents. But um, the rodeo, I think the premise of this rodeo is really about family fun. It's going to the rodeo, whether you do it once during the season or 10 times every night. Some people come all 10 weeks. They love it
Right.
so much. But the whole premise of the rodeo is family fun and preserving Western heritage. And that is our goal. So with that in mind, like everything that we do uh, is to support that goal. But, um, I was involved in recruiting some of the volunteers this year, and the volunteers are cool because they volunteer every rodeo, and at the end of it, we give out scholarships, which is a huge
Mm.
thing. And so, and that helps them, with their college funds and stuff like that. But
Right.
um, I had to communicate the whole goal of the rodeo, but I also, and you can really relate to this, is it's a show.
Yeah.
It's a show,
Yeah.
and we're putting on a show for others.
Coordination is
Yeah. And it
is key.
and it looks seamless, and it hasn't been because the whole rodeo arena changed in the last 2 years. So everything was kind of turned around, literally
Yeah.
and figuratively. Um, and so the last 2 years we really had to nailed down different things. The first year of the new stadium or arena was, wow, that was like whack-a-mole. So many things coming up. But we have all worked it out, and it's pretty seamless now, and it gets more and more streamlined every year. But it's my favorite time of summer just because you see so many people, but it's a show,
Yeah.
and I get to see the most incredible outfits.
Right, well, and I was actually gonna mention not necessarily outfits, but, like, I've been to the Snowmass Rodeo, and coming from the South, it felt more like, kinda like a Tennessee Fair or something like that in, like, the most wonderful sense that it was, like, not like, people have really cool outfits, but it's not glitzy, like, it's not the Aspen kind of glitzy. It's not a see and be seen in the same way. You can definitely see stuff, but it's like, like you said, preserving the Western culture. It's not a kimosabi show, and I have nothing against kimosabi, do not hear that. It is just something like that's just like everyone's there. It's like it's kinda like a football game without the football. It's just something that I could remember, not from, like, what was going on because we don't really have that, we're at least not in Nashville. I'm sure they do in other places in Tennessee. Again, don't shame me. Um, but yeah, there was just something like down home. Wherever your home is, there's something down home about that in the best of ways. And I remember loving it. My schedule was always like really funky with our dog situation and being in a condo where barking is an issue or whatever. But I do remember going once with some of our friends who were also from Nashville. And it was just like everyone's welcome and you feel that. And yeah, I highly recommend it to anyone who's coming to the Valley, whether you're here from not or whether you're from here or not.
Yeah. You know, um, I it has changed a little. The outfits have gotten a little outrageous,
Okay.
especially
Okay, maybe it is a show.
yeah, I mean, especially with the whole influencer sort of
Yeah.
situation. It definitely has become a Kemosabe show,
Okay,
for
I
better
take
or
that
for
back.
worse. But hey, I bought my Kemosabe hat like 10 years ago, um,
I
and
have 2.
yeah.
I have 2.
Oh, okay. Speaking of, okay, so
Yeah.
one of the joys of real estate is you get to experience some different things. And last year, Yoder, who was the
Uh-huh.
founder of Kemosabe, had it for many, many years. He and his wife decided to put their ranch on the market, and we got invited to a ride with him, which
Mhm.
was pretty epic. It was so cool.
Really?
Yeah. So shout out to Basalt Outfitters. Yoda's daughter, Gina Heinrich, has started this business, an outfitting company, and she takes people up on the Crown Mountain. And so Gina came and her husband and Yoda, and we got to ride with him, which was epic. And so we rode up, and he had like the copper coffee cups on the back of his saddle, and we had tequila shots up there and rode down and ended up, at his bar, the most epic bar ever. And
Which tracks.
yeah, and he looked at my hat and he's like, "Girl, your hat needs some shaping."
Oh,
He literally went and got his steamer and he steamed my hat for me.
that's
I
amazing.
mean, I like, that's history. I don't even want to use my hat, but I use it all the time. But I have a piece of Yoda right there. So
That's so
anyhow,
awesome.
yeah, that was a really cool memory, I have to say. I don't know how you top that one. Um, it was a
You
fun
should just
time.
quit now.
Quit now.
Just quit now.
But anyhow, coming back to the rodeo, it has gotten a lot more glitz and glamour. Carbondale, very different. But it's gonna be a great season. It really is.
That's awesome.
And we get sold out. We get sold out like almost every night. But that being said, if you're listening to the show, we do hold some tickets back at the door. That's where you'll
Okay.
find me at Will Call. Um, and I just got to get there early to get the tickets, and we try and get everybody in. But
Yeah.
but
Get there early.
get there
That's the name of
early,
the
and
game.
so
Also
that's
for parking purposes.
yeah, yeah, and all that fun stuff. So I'm super excited for the rodeo season. One more thing. One of my guests, I really wanted her to be on the third episode, and we haven't got there yet. And the reason being is, and I've mentioned this before, is Barbara Jean Brett,
Mm.
Golden Bow, and Midland Dry Goods. She has been working her tail off to open the store.
Right.
I'm actually going there this afternoon to help her. But I'm excited to be interviewing her hopefully next week, and we'll plug her in before this. But just I've gotten to know her incredibly well over the last couple of months, just obviously helping her with her lease, but our horses at the ranch together, but just through this whole process. And for listeners, if your broker's not helping you move and paint and do all
Is
that,
yeah,
you know
is she or he really a broker?
exactly. That's kind of where relationships are made, in the trenches. And so, yep, she's moving. The store is looking
Mm.
incredible. If you happen to be walking by, it you'll see it's
It's where
golden.
craft coffee was,
Yes. Yeah.
for reference.
So she's making the move as we speak, but it's been, a really incredible time to just kind of get to know her. And she's been very inspirational for me. A couple of things that have come out in this is to do things that are scary.
Mhm.
Geraldine Islanic and I had this conversation, and BJ the same. It's like, do scary things, push yourself. Don't kind of stagnate. And maybe that's what this podcast is for me
I was gonna say, when you
specifically.
called me, I was walking, down in Florida, and you're like, "So, tell me about this whole podcast thing, and what do I need to do?" And by the end of it, I did not know if you were gonna pull the trigger. But you did. You did, and you have been plowing ahead, and you've been doing I don't know if you were scared. I don't know your actual feelings behind the subject, but I know you didn't necessarily know what to do next. It didn't stop you. And so, yeah, it sounds like you took their advice before you asked their advice.
Yeah, I think that's just the theme that's coming through is to push, to do things that you don't normally do. I was scared to do this. I didn't know
Okay.
how it'd be on air as
Yeah.
such. But I have just loved every second of it, and yeah, here's to more.
Here's
So,
to more. And with that in mind, if you are the type of person out there who does have a story, but you are also just like, I do not want to be on camera. I do not want to be taped. This is something I go through with every single guest, not every single one, but most of the guests that I have on. It is the first time for them to ever talk to somebody. And I'm not talking about it on this, in terms of um, Charlie, but people talking about stories that can get vulnerable and that can get, especially like Amy's episode. If you
mhm,
heard that, if you haven't, you should. It can get vulnerable, but there's something about like, so right now, Charlie and I are taping. You're hearing it. But right now, no one's listening to us right now. It is not a live podcast. It is something that is taped. It is edited after the fact so that you feel comfortable. That includes the host, that includes the guest, so that the best possible situation comes out at the end, the best product. And with that said, if you are out there and you're like, I would love to talk to her, but I'm petrified or I'm just shy and I don't know how it's going to be, I promise you from watching the raw, unedited footage, she will make you feel very, very safe. Figuratively, literally. Hopefully, you're safe in your place. If you're not, you need to talk to us about that offline. But she will guide you through. It will not be something that you have to worry about preparing or practicing beforehand. This is not a performance. The best part about podcasts are that they are just pure conversations, but they're conversations that you're willing to share. And that willingness might come with a little bit of trepidation, but I promise you it's worth it. And after the fact, if you've got something you wish you hadn't said, you just tell her and she'll tell me and I'll fix it. And so it's
yeah,
it's not it's not a thing where you're like, "Oh, I have to be on." It's not a test. It is purely an opportunity for you to tell your story to those around you in the valley. And that's it. That's it. So if you have something to share, if you know somebody that you want to share and that's kind of their feeling, well, I'm just kind of a private person. Give it a shot.
yeah,
Give it a shot. Worst case scenario, we don't use it.
yeah. Just coming back to my podcast with Amy Groom. Um,
Yeah.
oh, leading up to that, I think I was more emotional. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, I had to pinch my legs.
Oh, really?
Yep, I was pinching my legs. The podcast starts out with me telling the story of Jeff's funeral and how it kind of all went down. And, there's hundreds of people on McKay Branch. And on the horizon, Jeff's son, it comes towards us leading his horse, so riderless horse. And, oh, I
That was
mean,
one of the
just,
harder ones for me to edit, I'll be honest.
yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, it just brought me to tears
Yeah.
remembering that. Hmm. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm pinching
Worth
my leg
listening
now.
to. Let's worth listening to if you didn't catch that one yet, please do. And again, not everybody's story has that kind of uh devastating start for the episode, but that's not what it's about. It's not about you having a better story or a scarier story or whatever. It's your story, and your story is worth listening to. So please reach out to Charlie. All of the information is in the show notes, every single episode. So you'll find her one way or another. Or if you meet me somewhere randomly, tell me. I'll tell her.
Yeah, I might be at the Redstone Fair
Oh
on
yeah.
the 27th. My good friend Lisa Madison, who is at the general store there, she's amazing. I'm going to have her on the podcast. She is newer to the valley. She has an amazing story. She fled the Malibu fires,
Oh,
literally like clothes in the car, driving away from the flames. That's how
ooh,
she
I
got
got
to
chills.
this valley. Yeah. And I met Lisa a while ago. They were one of the first people or first group to to offer to keep my book or sell my book.
Oh,
Yes, she's
nice.
been an incredible supporter. I ended up visiting with her at Sunfire Ranch after I did the episode with Connor Coleman, and Connor was very
Mm.
instrumental in getting that ranch up to speed with land preservation, all that kind of stuff. He's a consultant and really helped them there, and so I got to actually go and visit there, They're doing some incredible stuff. Jason and Jameson are this epic couple, that are running this ranch and newly married. She was
Mhm.
in New York. Now you know, she's in overalls and she's gardening and doing Airbnbs and whatever. So I got to visit Lisa there and to see the amazing things that they were doing with their pastures and all that kind of stuff. But getting back to it, she's at Redstone General Store. They've been a hell of a supporter of me. So I might be there the day after we launch this podcast
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the 26th.
That's great.
Just want to round off and say it's been an incredible journey. I'm just so, so grateful for everybody agreeing to be on the pod, to take the time because there's setup and some of the time it didn't work. There was one time with Andrea, I think we had to do it 3 times because we
Yeah.
had that big snowstorm and the
Yeah.
cell signal was terrible. And the same with Geraldine. So yeah, it looks easy. You make it look so easy. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much.
Sure.
And I can't wait to do the next series.
Yes, it's been so wonderful. To everyone who has agreed to be a part of it thus far, your stories are inspiring. And to everyone coming, hopefully next season, I can't wait to edit yours as well.
Well, I always sign off, giddy up and be well. So giddy up and be well. And here's to the next season. I'm so grateful.
Thank you for listening. This episode has been brought to you by the Lewis and Henderson Real Estate Team of Aspen Snowmass Sotheby's International Realty.